The latest episode of The Tomorrow People, we start to get a backstory about Kara, and we find out just when she found out she had the ability to teleport, to do teleportation, and she had telekinesis and all that kind of stuff. So it was back in when she was in high school, and apparently she was deaf, and she was out on a date with a boy, and he basically forces himself on her. And in order to get away, she pushes him, and he basically flies into the air and dies. And in this is the first time that she's ever realized that she could do this. And she gets arrested, and she's put in jail. And right before she's put in jail, she basically teleports out of the prison. It was kind of cool. And sad as well, because you find out that her, obviously she was deaf, and so she already had a hard relationship with people to begin with. And then when she kind of let her vulnerability down, she was attacked. And then she goes back to her father's house, and she is basically like, "Dad, I can speak." And he's like, "What?" He's like all confused, and he basically tells her to leave, and he tells her to go out of town, because no one's going to believe what she has to say. Nobody's going to believe that she suddenly can hear things. And he gives her some money, and he basically tells her to go, and she can read his mind, and so she basically hears him say, "We're better off without you." So it's really sad. She basically gets dismissed from her family, and that's how she ends up, I guess, where, obviously I'm sure that more things happen, but that's basically her backstory as to how she found out that she had the powers, and how she was basically turned away by humans. And in this episode, Jedekiah has, basically been playing his nephew. Like, he knows that he's still in conversations with the Tomorrow People, and he sets him up by, I guess, having him believe that there's a girl who's hurt somewhere, and they go to get her, and it ends up being him and his people, and a huge fight breaks out, and they end up grabbing Kara and taking them back to their compound headquarters. And so in the scene, there's a scene where she's all strapped to the table, and we've seen this before, because we know that they can just basically inject you with this serum, and then you lose your powers. And Stephen, he basically begs Jedekiah for him to be the one who injects her, because he doesn't, he wants to kind of prove that he's on their side. And so he lets him. So he goes into the room, and he goes to inject, and you're like, "Oh my God, is he really going to do it?" And he goes to inject her, and then all of a sudden this glass drops on the ground, and it shatters, and then stuff spills everywhere. And then you see him inject her, and then that's it. And then the next shot we see her, she's on the subway, and then all of a sudden she has her powers. So you're like, what just happened? So in that moment, when the glass breaks on the ground, he froze time, he changed the serum that was in the bottle, injected her with some other stuff, which was harmless, and then quickly time came back on, and he injected her, and everybody was led to believe that he gave her the actual serum to take her powers away. Now, the only problem that I actually had with this was, wouldn't Jedekiah do everything to see if it really worked? Like, would he just be like, "All right, you're free to go"? Like, I doubt it, right? So that was like my one qualm with that. I was like, it seems a little too easy that he would just be like, "All right, I trusted that worked," and he would like send her on her merry way. So in this episode as well, we had, still, because this was sort of the anniversary of when Kara, was attacked by this person back in high school, she was having all these like really quiet moments, and she was sort of not all with it. And her boyfriend John was like, "What's going on with you? Like, I know this is a tough time for you. Let me help you." And she was kind of pushing him away. And then of course she turned to Stephen, and she let him see this vision of her with her father, the moment at the doorway when he basically tells her to leave town. So obviously this is going to bond the two of them closer together. Now, on a side story, there was a girl that went to Stephen's school. They were at the very beginning of the episode. They were going to this party, and he could hear her thoughts. And he basically heard her say that, "Oh, tomorrow it's all going to be over because I'm going to be dead." And this is really concerning to Steven, and he thinks that he needs to get in there and help. And then, Kara and them are all like, look, we don't save people. We're just here to protect ourselves. And he's like, this isn't about, us saving the world. It's about being human and doing what our human instinct is to do. And that is to save somebody who's in trouble. So fine, they come and they basically teleport in where she's trying to get hit by a train. And Kara like teleports into the car. She has this conversation with her. It's like, really? I don't know. It's kind of weird. And then they save her. And after they save her, Kara and John teleport off, and then Steven's still left behind, and he's like finally teleports off himself. I don't know why he just didn't teleport with them, but he didn't. And in that moment, his friend Astrid drives up to see. I don't know where she came from. I don't know how she knew that he was going to be at the train tracks, but she did, and she drives up just in time to see him basically disappear. So now Astrid knows something's fishy. So the very last scene, we see her at his place in his bedroom, and she's basically like, is there something you want to tell me? He's like, oh, yeah, I went to see the girl who was going to kill herself, but everything's fine. And, she's going to go and see a doctor kind of thing. I don't know. And she's like, yeah, well, I basically saw you vanish into thin air. So what's up with that? And he kind of like denies it. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, wait a second. In the very first episode, you went to your girl, who's your best friend, and told her that you have some special powers. So I don't understand this scene as to why he wouldn't just sit down with her and tell her the truth and be like, remember when I told you that I could do these things? Well, it's true. And look, let me show you. Instead, he kind of denies it, and then and then she's like, well, I'm on to you, and then she walks out of the room, and I'm like, like, wasn't it just a couple episodes he was trying to tell you that he had all these special powers? So now why are you so like, why are you lying to me kind of thing? I don't know. It was a weird way to end it, and I was kind of like, why? It just didn't really make any sense. So, there was some up and downs for me in this episode, but again, I'm still enjoying it. I'm still gonna, keep on track with my reviews, and hopefully it kind of evens itself out, because I think it's still trying to find itself as a series. But all in all, a good episode, and that is my review of The Toronto People.